Guys, it's Sis Mahogany with Next Level Canine Coaching and our vlog, The Third Trainer. I wanted to jump on real quick and continue the series on starting a dog walking business. For those of you that are interested in doing so, I definitely recommend checking out all the videos in the series. This is the second video, so make sure that you go back and watch the first video where we look at some of the common aspects of running a business that lead to burnout and different kind of challenges. And so I want to make sure that everybody that's thinking about starting a dog walking business is aware of those things before they jump in. So today I wanted to talk about something that I think is really, really important in pretty much any aspect of business or leadership. But I think that the importance of it is often understated, especially when we're working with dogs. And one thing that I'll say, probably until you want to slap me, is, anytime we work with dogs, we're working with living beings. And it's extremely critical that we keep that in mind every step of the way and that we're not cavalier about the fact that we're working with dogs. So walking dogs in a lot of respect is the same as training a dog. You might not be working on particular commands or introducing training tools. You might not be doing any of that, but the way that you interact with that dog and the things that you do and don't do are going to affect their behavior. So it's really important to keep that stuff in mind. So that leads me to today's topic, which is education and mentorship. For some reason, I think, some part of the history of dog training sort of arose so naturally, where people, got these working dogs, they trained them, as they taught them to work, right? So it was on the job training. And the person training, whether it was a hunter or a farmer or, whoever it may have been, they didn't necessarily need to have a ton of education. They were, of course, dealing with their own dogs, their own working dogs. Where somewhere, something happened in the industry where it sort of became commonplace to just slap a sticker or a magnet on your car and say you're a dog trainer, and then it became so. Or to make up business cards, and then it became so that you were suddenly a dog trainer. Or watch a few episodes of The Dog Whisperer, and all of a sudden you're going poke poke and you think you're a dog trainer. I don't really know where that came from, but it's so critical that we get back to where education and mentorship are really critical aspects of working with dogs in any capacity, and that includes dog walking. So the first thing that I recommend is that you start to educate yourself, and you start to seek out good resources, read lots of books, just start getting into get experience handling dogs, so volunteer with rescues and shelters, things like that. Look for people that are, sort of organized and honest. So that's a big thing for me. So if you're looking at a rescue in particular, if you find that, you're watching the dog behave one way, and when the rescues are talking to potential adopters, they're neglecting to give a lot of truthful information, I don't encourage you aligning yourself with a rescue like that. Oftentimes, they also are a little bit lacking in handling and training skills, which is why they tend to give misinformation to potential adopters. So, find yourself some good rescues. There are many, many, many rescues out there. I personally have aligned myself with 2 of them in my area, and these are the 2 that are, they have a ton of integrity. They're very realistic about the conditions of the dogs. They are open to balanced approaches, and they don't hide that at all. A lot of rescues will do stuff like that too. So anyway, we're not here to talk about rescues today, but that's something to keep in mind should you decide to go get handling experience through a rescue. So start getting educated. The other thing is find a mentor. So when I transitioned from working out, from my corporate job into dog walking as a full time job, I had been doing some dog walking, pet sitting, a little bit of kind of light reward based training with my friends' dogs and some friends of friends. And, I was doing that on the side. I already had a full-time job, so I was kind of doing that on the side. But when I decided to go and jump into it fully, the first thing I recognized was that I needed a mentor. And I spent a year, working with a dog walker. And I had spent some time with different trainers, learning different techniques. I was using it very casually though. So when I decided to hook up with this dog walker, it was really deliberate. And I knew, it was because this was a career choice that I wanted to go into. So I found a dog walker. She was and is amazing, extremely skilled, had 2 decades of experience as a dog walker, walking groups of dogs. And I learned so much just going out, joining her on walks as often and as frequently as I could. It was just a mind-blowing experience because it's something I'd never done before. What I learned was just invaluable. There's a certain aspect that you cannot learn in classes and books, right? So that's pretty common when you're studying, living creatures, is actually watching them interact, watching the subtleties, and, those things might be written. It might even be on video, but sometimes they're out of context, or you can't completely understand them as they're presented. But when you're standing there with 6, 8 dogs all around you, and you're watching them interact, and you're watching their subtle body language and how they communicate with each other, from the least intense to the most intense level, all of that stuff, you can really start to internalize it and soak it in. I also got to learn a lot about client relations and relationships. My mentor, who taught me a lot of the aspects of dog walking, she couldn't teach me a lot of stuff about business, but actually there was a lot from my corporate experience that I could teach her about business. So it was a nice, interesting exchange. And she was a wonderful mentor that was, really happy for me as I started to progress and excel. And I think that's something that you want to look for too. You don't want someone, who's kind of jealous or is worried about you being competition. My mentor had like 0 worries about me competing against her. And that was great because I'm not that competitive type person. And the reality is there are so many dogs and so many people that need help with their dogs that there's no need for competition. There's plenty of business to go around. So, I spent a year just learning from her. And throughout the course of that year, I started to slowly kind of ramp up my own business. So when I started working with her, I was still in my corporate job. And then I, kind of made a slow and pretty smooth transition out of my corporate job. I continued to learn from her as I built a client base. And I, even in my corporate job, I had started to develop a waiting list, and I started to get myself out there. The marketing and stuff I'll talk a little bit more about in the next video. But for me, these 2 videos, the first and second episodes of this particular series are really the most crucial ones. Deciding, is this really the right decision, the right career choice for you? Are you in a position where you want to run a business? And if you're feeling really good about all those things and you have a legitimate interest in dog behavior, that's fantastic. Now your next step is to find a good, solid mentor that you can learn from. If anybody needs recommendations, my girl Kristen is a really, really super awesome awesome, and she's helping lots of people with their dog walking businesses. So she does traditionally work with people who are, you know, their dog walking businesses are already established, and they've been, you know, working at them for some time. But I know that she can help so many of you guys that are also just thinking about starting a business and, you know, just kind of wanting to jump in it, but you want to have guidance and you want to have someone that can help you make all the right steps. You know, that's really important, both in terms of learning about behavior, but also in terms of establishing your business. So, anyways, thanks for checking this out. Stay tuned for episode 3, where we're going to get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty. So if you've got a mentor, if you've decided this is definitely for you, you're definitely ready to run a business, now we're going to jump into what the next steps are. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you let me know what your questions are. You know, give a thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of the videos in this series or any of the other stuff that we're going to be talking about related to dog walking, dog training, and dog businesses in general. All right, I will talk to you guys soon.